Good morning, welcome. So happy that you've joined us today. Super excited to share with you lots of juicy information that I know you can use immediately on your clients. And I'm not only keen to stretch you technically, but I'm really keen to stretch your mind, get you thinking differently. I always think it's wonderful to reinvent yourself. It keeps life fascinating. It keeps life interesting. And I think that for me, I'm a big kid that's never grown up. So that curiosity has always been part of the creative process. So I'm going to take you kind of like inside my mind a little tiny bit. I know that's scary. But what I want to do is show you how 40 years plus later, still excited about doing hair, still looking for innovation, trying new things, still love helping and sharing other hairdressers. And there's nothing more rewarding to share information with you and to see you grow. So a warm welcome. We've got lots of friends joining us. Barbara was early with us today. Give us a thumbs up, Barbara, that you can hear me good. She's coming in from Ohio. And I'd like to also, while we're waiting for Barbara to reply, just like to bring in someone who's very, very special. And this young lady here, the fabulous Sarah. And Sarah is currently muted, so we're going to ask Sarah to unmute herself. And good morning, Sarah.
Good morning.
How are you today?
I'm great, thank you.
Good.
I'm happy to be here.
Yeah, it's wonderful to have you here. Sarah is a really very talented hairdresser. I've had the honor of watching her work over this last year. She came and did a private class with me, and that's when I got to go, wow, this lady is really talented. And what also impressed me about Sarah was her passion for learning. And with how many years in the business, Sarah?
32.
32 years in the business, and she's still hungry and growing. And I think that's very, very exciting. She is a mother of two very fine sons. She has a lovely husband. And she's had a very successful career as a salon owner. So I thought it'd be wonderful for her to share her insights, her input with us today, to field any questions that you have. So good, Barbara, we're pleased you're here. And we've got other friends also joining us today. So yes, any questions you have, please pop them in the chat and we will respond. And Sarah is also a member of the Hair Designer Program. And the content today is very heavily into that content. And I know that today is a 90-minute session to stretch your minds. And for many of you, you're going to say, well, Viv, I'd like a little bit more. So we'll be talking about that today. So Sarah, I have something really interesting to share. She was work in progress. I'm affectionately calling her the troll. The troll. It took me an hour and a half to put these hair extensions in because I didn't have a mannequin with long enough hair. And I thought, wow, she'll be a really good one. She's a giant. But anyway, we're going to talk about her in a few moments, but I'm going to be taking through a really fun haircut. So let's just dive into our presentation and talk to you about what we're actually exploring today. So today is about how to be an in-demand hairdresser. In a time when the world is so crazy, how do you create that demand and create that magic? We're also going to be exploring today a new cutting technique, a modern long layer with a disconnection, but it will look fluid. How to map out your layers for total control. How to save time and to discover your energy stealers when cutting hair. And we're going to talk a lot about that. Learn how to avoid the boredom of doing the same look over and over again. So how does that seem to you guys? Does that sound like a good plan? Not only showing you some strong techniques today, but to go inside the mind, because how we think determines how we feel. How we feel determines how we respond. How we respond is our end result, right? So the thinking process that separates the highly creative from the moderately creative to those lacking in creativity is a mindset, because we're all born with an infinite amount of creativity. The question is, how much do we use that creativity on our journey. And that's what we want to talk about again today. So today's content is from the Hair Designer program, and it's a very rich program, as I mentioned, Sarah is part of. So what we're going to talk about is a modern long layer with a disconnection and how to map out your layers for total control. So let's take a look, first of all, at our facial framing, because our young lady is going to have a fringe. And the question is, how much do we open or close the face? Very important part. The next thing is, when we're looking at the opening and the closing from our curtains fringe here, which is obviously closing down the face, to over here, where we've got our fringe, which is long and in the eyes, but we just open it out and flow through. We are putting much more of a focus on the lower part of the face. So the question is, what is the skull shape of your client? Is she a round or is she an oval? Where do these layers need to live? Level with the cheekbone, below the cheekbone, level with the jaw, level with the neck. And how do we determine that the height of the layer here compared to the height of the layer here? I am always inspired by a face shape, even one that's a bit tricky. So for example, when we're looking here at the narrowness of the skull of a diamond, the narrowness of the skull with a pear, and then the volume of the head here in our square, or I should say our rectangle, which one of these fringes would work so well? So therefore, when we're looking at this face shape here, and we're looking at, to make her oval, she would need more volume through the top. She would need to be closed down through here. You can see my cursor. And then if we're going to put in a fringe, we have to be careful that, are we now going to make this area look really, really full? The only way to balance it is for it to be a little bit broken and to have a lot of volume through here. So we disguise. Now, when we are working with somebody who's got this type of face shape, where we are going to say, let us close this girl down, to make her oval, how about creating curves on that squareness? So we're looking at curves. So I'm always looking at the opening and the closing. And for example, here we have volume here. So the last thing I'm going to do is put more volume here. This lady needs volume at the top, the top, the top, the top. And then if we're going to close this down, we have to be very, very mindful that we don't make this look too narrow. She needs volume through here. So it's all about the illusion. I always work with the ratio of 3 in the face. So what I'd like you to do is, starting today, what I'd like for you to do is measure your client's face and go through that conversation. Sarah, I know you've been applying this principle. Would you like to share with us your learns and your discoveries?
Sure. It definitely helps you see things differently when you're doing your consultation with your clients and how to best bring out their features. It definitely gives me confidence when I start doing, especially when I'm making a change on somebody, or even doing a small change, like adding a fringe or doing more facial framing. It just really helps to give me the confidence to know that what I'm doing for them is going to be the most complementary.
Absolutely. Very well said. So the fourth ratio is the balance, the final thing. So what I always look for is, how do I create even proportion? I communicate this to the client. This is value added. And everything about what we do is focused on value. I never say focus on the dollar, focus on the value, and the dollar takes care of itself. So here, when we look at this lovely lady, she has a long fringe and it sort of sweeps across, and we've got lots of layers, and she's got volume in her hair. She also has very thick hair. So therefore, she can actually have lots and lots of layers in her hair, and it will work. This is what we're going to do today. This young lady, when I was doing this look, she did have some hair extensions put in, but it was only a few actually, but what I did was a zigzag parting, which I'm going to show you in a moment, so that you'll find that will be interesting to see. So now what we're going to do is more focus on this one today. I want to talk to you about the commonality of this hairstyle, which is great, where she's got her parting, she's got the hair shaping around her face. And this is the mannequin that I'm going to be working on today, this one here, you can see with my cursor. So we're going to take her from this into this fringe, and you can see it totally changes the head shape when you start to put all this volume at the top. So therefore, a lady with an inverted triangle, wide here, narrow here, that would not be necessarily the best hairstyle. So whenever I'm working with face shape, what I'm always looking at is how do I create that balance? So here you can see in the back, we've got some nice layers and some softness, and we've got, this is now over here. This is the mannequin after all the hair extensions, which looks really, really scary. So this is all one length, and there's a mixture of texture in here, which is really quite interesting. And you can see that it's a hot mess, right? And so how are we going to take her from looking like the troll and taking her through into the other side? Now, what's interesting is from the front, if you saw this photograph that you go, oh, that's so really, really cool. I love that. And your client brings in this picture. But when you see this, it's like, oh, what went wrong in the back? So what did go wrong in the back? So ideally, I like to take a ziggy-zaggy section, so
Very
that
technical.
yes, valleys and peaks in this. Now, I'm not going to be able to do my zigzag section today because I had the hair extensions in. But this is what I did on this haircut that you're looking at here. He has a zigzag sectioning, which is really, really good. So I just want you to be aware of that. What we're going to do, first of all, is establish the outline length. We're going to work in our perimeter to create our facial framing. And notice whether you're going into something like this that is much higher, and we're looking at all this shattered edge, which did not have a hard line put into it, is very, very abstract, versus doing more of a structure. So that's what we're going to do today. So let's now go into doing it, right? Break this down. I intentionally did not wet her because I wanted you to see her totally a la naturelle with all of this stuff going on. So let's start off with a wide comb. First of all, I'm going to dampen this down and do my perimeter sectioning here. And why are you wobbling? Because you're on a cable. Right. I don't want a wobbly client. So we're going to take our perimeter here, and I'm going to do a combination of the scissor and the razor. I'm going to do a combination of wet and dry cutting. And I'm going to just come through here and section all of this out of the way and make sure that I'm nice and organized. So I think now's a good time to just do a little bit of a recap on the consultation and the face shape importance and the measuring of the face. So the measuring of the face, Sarah, tell me what your protocol or your language was, because obviously you're very talented, very successful, and all of a sudden you're coming in with a new language for your clients, talking about measuring the face shape, which I presume before you didn't do. Please correct me if I'm wrong, but talk to me about
that. Well, I asked them, if they would be willing to spend a few more minutes to go over the consultation form and for me to analyze their face shape. And I would have them do the consultation form so I would know like what their favorite features are, because that was like definitely not anything I ever asked people before. And it was very surprising the things that people would say, what their favorite features are. And it also it kind of led me down the road, because if it was their lips or their eyes or their cheekbones or whatever, then you can design the haircut that would actually enhance that. So, and then as I would go over the face shape with them, I would do the rule of thirds. So, and then I would say that they found it to be very, they just put a big smile on their face, because they felt like they were special and that they were being taken care of, and they were getting something that they didn't get anywhere else. Yes. Something very personal.
Yes, yes. So I was last night on a mentoring call, which was really, really wonderful. And the whole conversation was around pricing. And it was really interesting, the whole conversation around pricing. And one of the things, and I'd love to hear from our friends your thoughts on this, but one of the things I do know, having worked with such high profile hairdressers, what the commonality between the guys who are charging $1,000 for a haircut, etc., is that they believe that they're worth it.
Mm-hmm.
They're always current. They're always on trend. They obviously, their zip code says a lot about their price as well. So there's a lot of things. So we're going to pick up that conversation a bit more in a moment. And any questions you have, please do pop them into the chat. I'm going to be doing the fringe, and I am going to be closing it down a little tiny bit so I have more of a flick to play with, and that's going to be important. So it's going to be a fringe that kind of goes into a curtain fringe. So I'm going to come through here, and I'm going to come with my razor, and I'm almost at the nose, and I'm sliding up and down, up and down, up and down, and I stop and I look at how that hair is going to behave. And it is always amazing to me how much this will actually lift. And that's a nice amount of movement in there. And again, looking at where that was at the tip of the nose, and it's jumped up with some elevation, and I've got that nice movement. So now what I'm going to do on my left side is comb the hair down. And again, I'm doing the razor so that it's very, very abstract. I'm sliding my fingers down, and I'm going to do the L technique. I'm coming through here and over, layer and over, and I stop and I work with the hair immediately. This saves the time. This shows the client that I'm looking at the balance and the proportion. I would also be speaking about how much does the hair bother you going in your eyes. And I think about the celebrity Goldie Hawn, who has worn pretty much the same layered haircut for, I don't know, decades. And it's always peeking in her eyes. And somehow that kind of, she's just so used to it. And for some women, they love that whole vibe of it being in their eyes. And other people, it drives them crazy. So this is just like coming across. So you want to always say to your client, I'm going to the corner of the eyebrow. You always want to say to your client, I'm going to allow for it to jump. And if it's sitting a little bit too long at the end, then I can always go back in. So look, as I come through here, is this showing well, Sarah?
I would turn her just slightly towards the camera. Yeah, that's better.
Okay.
And Vivienne, there's a question. It says, how do I motivate my staff to show up for training?
Oh, that's a really great question. How do you motivate your staff to show up for training? I think you've got to, as a leader, you've got to, maybe I've got on this side. You've got to be it in order to have it. So as a leader, you've got to be passionate about education. I'm going to just repeat on this second side, and then I will carry on with that question, Sarah. I'm just going to come through here, square across the nose. Does that show well?
It does.
Okay, so I'm level there and there. So I'm just going to come in long strokes and over, long strokes over, long strokes over, up and down and over. I'm now going to stop. I remember, Sarah, how we always speak about that 10 seconds of stopping, looking, observing, how's the hair falling. This is the time when we're stopping and we're looking and saying, okay, does that work? And not cutting too much. I see very often people taking away lots and lots of hair and they're not stopping to look. So before I cut my second side, this is very, very helpful. I'm going to come through and look at my finger position here, shift my finger position there so that I'm actually aiming at the right place. I'm going to now actually just move that over. And now I'm going to come through and I'm just going to come through and connect.
What you just did is a game changer for me with my bobs.
Yes.
Especially in the back, because I would just be checking, like bits instead of the angle of my fingers. And once I started doing the angle of my fingers, my bobs became a lot more precise.
Yes, yeah, and that is really, time is everything. Time is money. Money is going to come and go, but time is not. So that's important. So I'm going to blend into the sides, and then I'm going to talk to Sarah about motivation and getting your staff to show up. So this is a huge connection through here, and I'm going to connect to, and first of all, going to establish a length that I'd like to have here and here. And I'm going to look at my length, and I'm going to have to raise her up so you can see.
Yeah. Okay.
So I'm going to look at this length here, and I'm going to now look at this length in the back and say, okay, so in the back, where do I want this to be? I want to actually create more of a round back. So I want to keep this back long, but I want a rounded back. So if I'm going to, I'm just going to look here for a second. If I'm going to have this here and here to cut my curve, I'm just going to come in here. And it's just going to be easier to do it this way. Just breaking into it. This is just a reference. I'm making sure I'm standing straight. I wasn't. I was standing to the side so that you could see. So there we go. I've got that there. So now I'm going to swing. I'm going to look at that. That's good. I'm going to swing it around here. And again, this is all part of our mapping. I'm going to look here. Make sure I'm standing straight. I'm going to check it this way so that I'm happy with my length. I would do this with the client standing up. So as long as her nose is in the center, we're okay, right? And if it's not, well, there you go. Right, so now let's always get the head in the right position. I'm just going to tilt her a little tiny bit. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to over direct forwards, and just make sure you can see this well. We're going to dance our way through this. It's always harder with a longer layered hairstyle. So now I have my connection at this side, and I'm going to come through and glide in and out, circle, 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 glide, rhythm, 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 rhythm to my outlined length. That was almost rap sounding. I don't know. English girl doing rap? I don't think so. Move and groove and move and groove and swing and swing. Let's party. But relaxation is an important part of this. I don't know about jiggling, but gliding, gliding, gliding through, very, very soft. And working with the razor is going to give me so much more of a soft effect. I can immediately see that movement around the face. I'm now going to start my flipping because she's going to flip and she's going to flip. Just that little flip out. And is that too heavy? Can there be a bit more in there? So that, again, the 10-second rule of stopping and looking. And I'm just going to take a little bit more out there. Soft, 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 soft. And now when you're doing this type of work, it's nice to be quiet. Let the client know that you're talking to the hair. Get that right. So just doing that little course correction has given more movement just in there. Does that show, Sarah?
It does.
So I'm going to do exactly the same on the other side. There is an art to blending hair with hair extensions to make it look as though it's growing out of the client's head. When you see celebrities with hair extensions and it's done so well, you have no idea that they're actually wearing hair extensions, other than maybe one day you see them in and then the next day they have something completely different and you go, oh my God, how did that happen? Well, it was hair extensions, or it could even have been a wig. But when it's done so well, it's an incredible illusion. So we need to disguise this, because you want people to say, oh my gosh, I love your hair. Not, oh, you had hair extensions put in. Mm-hmm. That's not what you want. So, again, I've got to play with the hair. I've got to look at how the hair responds. The hair is not going to be the same on both sides in terms of how it behaves, because, I've got hair extensions going in, but I want to get it as close as possible. Long strokes in and out. And notice when I'm working with my razor, my thumb is bent, and I'm very soft and it's springing. So in the designer program, we spend a lot of time talking and training on the holding of the razor, how we glide, because we do 8 different movements with the razor. The common mistake I see is a locked thumb, and I see people hitting the hair.
Hacking.
Yeah, a stiff wrist and
That's
not
what I used to do.
yeah, not gliding. So let's talk about that. The gliding through, the softness of that look. What for you, Sarah, was the big game changer with that?
With the gliding?
Yes.
Well, I think it was early on. Maybe the second or third razor haircut we did, and I was standing in the wrong position, and you coached me into standing in the right position, holding the razor in the right way, and using it, properly, and kind of gliding and scooping a little bit.
Yes.
Because before I was just kind of like hack, 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 kind of going down the hair strand and hacking away at it. And it looked like it,
Yes.
It didn't have like that soft, feathery disconnect,
No.
or openness and space. It was definitely like a dog had been chewing on the ends.
Right.
Which is not what we want.
So I know I haven't answered your question yet, and I will, I promise. I just want to make sure that our friends are understanding this haircut, and I will dive back into the question about staff and motivation. But let me just get here to my focal point. There it is right there. There's my focal point of my haircut. And I'm going to now come through, and I'm going to come up and down, up and down, up and down, swing, 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 swing. Lots and lots of movement through there. And I'm just looking at how that softly is falling through. Very, very soft. I'm going to go back into it again. And you'll notice, because I've got hair extensions in the hair, I'm going to do a combination, as I mentioned, of scissor cutting, which will be dry, razor cutting, which has to be wet. So I'm just going to be working on the area that needs to be wet, over directing forwards. And this will always give you a very, very, very soft, pretty shape when you're over directing the hair across the shoulder, and you get that lovely roundness. Mm-hmm. So now I'm coming into my center back. Now, when you're looking at someone's torso, their body type, you have apple, pear, or banana. Apple, pear, or banana. So when you're looking at body types, you have to look at where is the volume in the body. Do they carry their weight in their hips? Do they carry their weight in the bust region? Or are they a banana where they're long and skinny? And my one is clearly, she doesn't even have a body. So she's definitely in the skinny category. And I've got to just be careful that as I pull on this, I don't change her head shape, her head position. So I'm over directing. I am pointing down to the floor. I have it in position. And as you all know, hair extensions can be a bit yucky to cut. Have you had that experience, Sarah?
Yes. Yeah.
And so I'm going to be over directing here now. I'm going to go up and down, 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 all the way through there. Very, very strong. And then I'm going to look at that nice softness. Now, what is nice about this is I'm over directing. I'm swinging into the hair. I knew you were going to be a challenge, sweetie, but really, keep that body still. I'm over directing. And from the over direction and the deep going in and out, in and out, in and out, I'm creating this lovely soft perimeter. And I want that lovely softness. I don't want a hard line here. So when we're looking at body types, you've got to ask yourself, what would happen if you did a square across the back? And Sarah, this is a question for you. A square line across the back, and she's a pear body type. What is the danger of that?
The squareness of it will call attention to her bottom.
Yes, precisely.
Yeah, the weight of the perimeter line will draw more attention to her bottom.
Yes, absolutely. And that's the big thing. So in here, guys, I'm elevating here because I'm doing a round shape. So you must always look with the client standing up with her, ideally with her real clothes on, as opposed to just a cape. You must look at what happens when you go like O square, what happens when you do a V, and you show the client she's holding the hand mirror, looking in the mirror, and she's looking at the difference of where the length sits and how that plays out. So in here, I've now got all of that lovely softness, which I will repeat on the second side. So as I'm going to repeat that on the second side, any questions before I go and answer Sarah's question about staff motivation and that question? Any questions that you have, Sarah, or any questions that are coming in from our friends?
Can you turn the mannequin so that we see the back, the comparison between the nice roundness and the square and the weight of it? Yeah. Yeah. Okay, up just there we go. Yeah.
So here we've got
It's nice to have that visual.
Yeah, there's our nice softness, right? So now I've just got to match it on the other side. This side looks a little scary, to say the least. All right, so let me find my focal point. Sorry, I'm standing in front of you guys. This is so important. Yeah, right. So the same thing up here. So as I'm coming through, I'm finding my focal point. And I'm going to come through with my nice soft stroke. I put my finger here and I look at the position here. Sorry, I'm standing in front of you again. I'm going to come through this way. I'm trying to stand as close so you can see as possible. So here we go. Up and down, nice and soft. Over directing. And this took about, these are tape-in hair extensions. And it took me just over an hour to put them in. There's quite a lot in here, to be honest. All right, I'm going to stop and take my 10 seconds. I'm going to step back, make sure that this is correct.
10,
because we want
9,
to make sure that we're
8,
investing time. Go ahead, Sarah.
6, 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1.
Yeah, and I don't want to have to go back in and cut again. I want to make sure I get it right the very, very first time. So that's where your time-saving exercise is. So Sarah, we had a question about motivating staff. And I suppose the number one thing is any salon owner, you've got to practice what you want. You've got to be a living example. Everything rises and falls on leadership. So when you're looking at building a team that are motivated and excited to show up, the number one thing is the salon owner must be that first. Because it's almost like saying to your kids, don't do that. And you're telling them not to do a certain thing. And they turn around and say, yeah, but mom, you do it, right? Has that ever happened to you, Sarah, as a mother?
Oh, yeah, of course.
So we have to live it, breathe it, and be it. To change people's habits, you always have to look at what are the habits that serve me and what are the habits that get in the way from me being the best version of myself. What are those habits? So when you have habits, you go, you know what, that is a really good habit. It serves me. I'm going to keep it. But if the habit's not getting you the results you want, you've got to change it. So if you have staff that are spent, that are not showing up for training, number one, you've got to be it. Number two, you've got to make it exciting and fun. Number three, if you make the challenge baby steps, you're going to have a lot more success than asking your staff to do something very, very big and very, very dramatic. So that is also an extremely important part of that. So the whole perimeter is cut around the very edge. I'm now going to ignore the back for a moment. I need to freshen up my eye. Actually, I'm going to measure one more time. I see some weight right in there.
So speaking of habits, I also have another question. It says, my staff spends a lot of time on Instagram videos and they struggle to recreate the looks. So what are your thoughts on that?
Well, I think Instagram is fantastic. I think all of these social media platforms are absolutely fantastic for ideas. But that's not where mastery lives, because there's nothing out there that's going to take you from what you know now to what you don't know in a nanosecond. So that's the big thing. And also, passive learning doesn't work. Absolutely does not work. And what do I mean by passive learning? Passive learning is when you're just watching. So there is motion because you're watching, but there's no action because you're not doing. And if you don't recreate what you are watching, you don't know if you can do it. I can watch a ballerina do a pirouette and I can watch it 100 times. That doesn't mean that I can't do a pirouette. I probably would try one and fall flat on my derriere, right? So, passive learning does not work. So Instagram is fantastic. All these platforms where you're learning tricks is fantastic. But if you can't go and recreate it, then you have the problem. And so that's why you've got to be very, very, very careful. So then what happens is you see whatever it is, right? You see a great, cool technique, and then you think, oh, that's cool. And you try it, and then it's like, oh my gosh, that didn't work, or you have a problem. And bear in mind, I don't think clients are for experimenting. I believe that what we're doing now, working on a mannequin, is where our experimentation happens, right? This is where it happens. So you can see now she's coming through and nice and open. So in talking about staff and being motivated and getting results, this is what I recommend. Number one, if you've got a physical space in a salon that can be your learning center, whether it's a little section in your staff room or some physical place, whether it just be a ring light that's hanging from the ceiling, whether it be an iPad stand, something that says, maybe a scribble on the mirror that says do not disturb, I'm in my creative mode, or whatever. Something that says, wow, this is where I go to get creative. And if you're a salon and you haven't been in that creative zone, that place for a while, what does that say? Wow, I haven't been doing it, right? So, even if you make the artist date once a week for an hour, that will multiply over the year to a significant amount of time. And if you take baby steps doing that, by the end of the year, it will have compounded and you will start to see some huge, huge results. But I think if you go there and just expect just by watching a video that you know it, no, you don't. And I think the best example of that, Sarah, is I've been recently just as an experiment, and it's been brilliant, watching some Pinterest videos on dress work, and they're like 15 seconds. And I've then got my mannequin out to try and recreate them. And 3 hours later,
yeah,
I'm still struggling.
Well, that's what drew me to the hair designer program is, I find that the practice always pays off, where, we're all very visual people and we're drawn to visual ideas, but the practice is that's where the changes come.
Absolutely. They absolutely do. So you can see that what's happening here. Let's just go back to the haircut for a moment. And then again, I will go back to that conversation that we're having about training. And please, any questions you have, do ask. As we're coming through here, you'll notice I'm taking my hand onto the original guideline. Here, I'm coming through with very long strokes, up and down, up and down. I'm being mindful of how much I over direct. I am blending the hair that's on the mannequin into the hair extensions. I'm gliding and sliding through. Does that show well, Sarah?
It does.
And as I'm gliding through, it's the rhythm all the way through. It's the lightness of touch. It's the stopping. It's the playing with the hair. It's looking at this flip that's taking place, which is a little 70s nod. A little 70s nod that's going on as she's just coming through, so that I can just see how is that going to be playing through there, and just looking at that movement cascading. So we've got something really, really, really lovely and soft. So I'm going to continue doing this. I'm going to work back, and this is where it's a deep fringe, and you can see everything is connecting. So I want to look at where's this going to fall, making sure my sections are small enough that I can always see through, especially with the razor. And all I'm focusing on right now is the perimeter. And there's going to be, I would say, this is about over 50% of the haircut right now, because it's just the perimeter, but I'm doing extreme over direction. Mm-hmm. So here it has to be pivoted from the fringe to the side of the fringe to the facial framing into the side. So I'm being very mindful as to where this lives.
So Barbara says that she's loving this.
Oh, good. Oh, yeah. Good. So long strokes, over directing forwards and down, twisting my hand. Now this is the rhythm. 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. Rhythm is important because of you want it to be like the shape of a feather. A feather doesn't have any hard lines. It's all lovely and soft. And again, play with the hair. So what am I saying? Number one, in our consultation, we mapped the shape around the face based on face shape. The next thing is we're stopping and we're playing with the hair as we cut so that we can see how it's performing. And ideally, at the end of this, wouldn't this be nice if it only needed minor blow drying, very minor, just to get that nice finish. Mm-hmm. Here again, up and down into the hair about 1.5 inches. So I'm really taking very deep strokes. Position, up and down, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, all the way through into my perimeter. Just looking at.
So there's a question, Vivienne.
Yes.
It says, and I think this is a good question, how do I get my clients to change?
That all comes through the consultation. So if you ask the question, how do you feel about your hair right now? What have you been finding with your hair? There are 3 F's: feel, find, frustration. Is there anything that's frustrating with your hair right now? How do you feel about your hair? Are you finding it easy to maintain? Are you open to new ideas? And if she says no, it's like, okay, great, super, fine. But what if she's open to an idea and you've never explored it? So one of the things I love about the consultation that we offer in the designer program is that it's automated. The questions are there for the client. So the client can fill out the questionnaire before you see her. And she is then able to say, because the question asks this, how happy are you with your hair on a scale of 1 to 10? 10 being, I love it. 1 being, I don't like it, right? So look how far back I am, Sarah.
Yeah.
See how far that is, guys? Mm-hmm. So I'm going to continue doing what I have been doing. This is actually also going to give me my internal layers. So now I'm going to pivot over here, a little bit of a divide. So when you're asking your client, how happy are you with your current look? The other thing is, how open are you to change? Because it's very easy to complain and do nothing. And the definition of complaining is to remain the same. So think about that. Let's just say Vivienne needs to eat less sugar. And I'm complaining that I'm not the way I want to be. Well, the moment I stop eating sugar, my weight is going to change and I won't have anything to complain about. But if I say, yeah, but I like my cookies and I like my ice cream and I like all of my sugars. Oh, I wish I could lose weight. Oh, I wish I could lose weight. Well, my complaint is justified because I'm eating too much sugar and I've done nothing about it. But until I make the change, nothing will happen. So the definition of complaining is to remain the same. So if you have a client that says, well, number 3, I don't like my hair, I'm bored with it. And then you ask her how open you are to change, and she says 0, She would rather complain about it.
Mm-hmm.
Very revealing when you ask, how happy are you with your hair? How open are you to change? Boom, there you are. It's the second question. When it's a new client, it's wonderful to know why they left their previous person. It certainly is not an icebreaker to say, hello, Mrs. Jones, how are you today? Now, why did you leave your last person? That's a very uncomfortable, and you would not do that kind of question. But in a consultation, and you're asking in your form, why did you leave your previous hairdresser? And it could be, they didn't give me a consultation, or they always felt rushed, or I didn't feel cared for. Ooh, what a gift that is. Now you know or they were bored with their hair. They were looking for something new. So instead of asking their hairdresser, they went to somebody else.
Vivienne, will you give the statistic on how many hairdressers feel like they give the consultation?
Oh, yes. 97% of hairdressers believe they give a consultation, but only 7% of clients say they receive a consultation. Staggering, isn't it?
Amazing.
Yeah, staggering. So look at this now. Look, this is a very important point within this haircut. You see how far I've come back? I have over-directed that completely into the facial framing. So what I'm going to do now is just...
Is that the highest point of her head there?
Yes, it's the peak.
Okay.
Yeah. So obviously what you're going to do is you're going to look at how thin the fringe area is on your guest. You know, my hair's getting definitely thin in the front, and I'm soon going to be wearing my fringe from the back of my crown forward. I'll be walking into a room backwards because there'll be nothing. I don't know. So this is definitely the back here, guys, right? But this is the front. So I am going to be super brave here, and I'm going to connect this over and down into my side. Long stroke. Now, can you see how hard this would be to do with scissors? It would be, you'd never get this result, because I'm cutting my inside and my outside shape simultaneously, which makes this a very fast haircut. I don't like to speak about speed. I like to speak about efficiency when one's working, the efficiency of how you're moving through your hairstyle, because it's a horrible feeling to be anywhere and you see that person rushing. It's a very frightening energy to be around, especially when someone's got scissors in their hands and it's your hair. So I think quiet, control, efficiency, so you don't go back into the same area twice. Anytime you go back into another area again, it means that it wasn't right first time. So why wasn't it right first time? You didn't stop and look. You didn't check it out. You were so busy trying to get through. You were so busy rushing, you didn't get to the end result. So can you see now how this is kind of flipping around and flipping around? And we've got that nice flip through there. And this is going to flip there. So notice I'm actually shaping that into place. And clearly I flip a lot better on this side. Let me try my other hand. Oh no, that's not. Oh, can the left hand do it? Can the left hand do it? All right, so I've now got that nicely flipped. And I'm going to just see how that plays out there, that soft fringe. There we go. So there she is flipping, there she is blended. So we're going to just take a moment, and then we're going to move into some important mindset questions. And then we're going to come back into this haircut. I'm going to show you how we map the haircut with the layers. All we've done so far is perimeter. So the next part is going to be the internal part and where we put these layers. So I'm going to show you how we map that in a moment. So thank you, Barbara, for the nice comment. So let's just go back over here for a second. So if you stay to the end, which I hope you will, we're going to give you access to this masterclass, which I think you'll enjoy keeping because it's always good to go back into it. So what is the one thing you're committed to learn over this next year? If you had the training and coaching could you achieve your goal? Which will be quicker with outstanding results? Basically, is it going to be figuring it out by yourself or following a proven system? So, Sarah, what are the goals that you have this year? You've already been on the designer program now for 10 months. What was your primary goal in the beginning when you started the program? And what is it now 10 months later?
That's a good question. My primary goal was to focus on being a student for the year. I've been an educator for 3 different brands, and I quit doing that last year. And I just decided, you know what? One thing I loved about teaching was always the learning. And so I really just wanted to focus on me and being and growing myself as a stylist. And I feel like I've done that, but I've also grown so much as a person. Like the confidence and the skills that I've learned in the hair designer program, incorporating all those small changes and having an eye for detail has definitely made me more detailed about my own personal life. So that was an unexpected bonus. And going forward, I don't really know. I'm giving myself some grace and some time to figure out, like, I'm just loving incorporating the skills that I've learned with my clients, enjoying time behind my chair. And I don't know. We'll see. I'm just staying open.
Okay, good. So, I'm just putting some movement into the bottom of this, getting ready for my dry cutting, and I am going to go over some finishing skills with you a little later. But because this is hair extensions, I just want to just get this movement matching the top as we have this conversation. For me, my goal, just to share with you what my goals are this year, I've been learning marketing. I've been learning the psychology of how people buy into something. I've been working on all of my hair cutting skills, which I always do. I've been working on trying to reinvent myself. I've been looking at habits, my habits that serve me and habits that do not. So I've been studying neuroscience and how can I help my students perform to their best. And I've discovered too that when you understand the psychology of a habit, it's really very, very profound in terms of being liberated by that. So those are important things that I'm actually doing this year, which is great. So your daily habits do determine your success. What are your daily or your weekly rituals? Do they serve you or do they take you away from your goal? And that is the big, big thing, is do they take you away? So basically, with a habit, 95% of what we did yesterday, we will do today. So I just tomorrow want you to kind of be very aware of, do you get up in the morning and what's the first thing you do? Do you check your emails? Do you check your phone? Next thing is probably visit the bathroom and clean your teeth. And the next thing maybe make yourself a cup of coffee. You get out that same mug, you do certain things. So there's certain things that are so repetitive, you don't even think about it. So the question would be, would there be a better way to start the day? Maybe no, maybe yes. What would be the ritual? So I decided for myself, I'm going to get up at 5:30 in the morning. I do my meditation. I visualize my day. I then do my yoga. And then some mornings I get up super early, even earlier than that, and I go and ride my horse. And then I come back and I'm like, okay, I'm now ready for my game. I'm now ready and on. And I then start to look at the habits that I have that really, really work. And the habits where, it's not my love, it's not my passion, and I really have to work very, very hard at it. But I know it's part of being in business today. So those are the things that I look at. So when I'm working with somebody, and for any of you who are not members of Hair Designer TV and you'd like to be, I'm going to give you that opportunity to find out more about it at the end of this session today. But what I would say to you is that when you are looking at your habits, and when I'm working with hairdressers, I want them to make baby shifts. And what I do know is that a goal is great, but a goal will never get you there. It's the system that takes you there. And when it's systemized and you have an accountability partner and you have to show up, that is the big big game changer. So for example, in our designer program, I ask everyone to photograph their work, to post it in the forum so that I may give them a review of their work. What's fascinating in research, nothing to do with me, they got students to do some photographic work, and they said to one group, just take as many pictures as you can. If they're good, bad, or ugly, just take pictures, learn and grow. It's not about the quality of the picture, it's about the quantity and what you learn on the journey. Then they said to another group, we just want you to take one outstanding picture, just one. We want you to do the research. We want you to study. We want you to review things, blah, 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 blah. And we want to see at the end of this, who produces at the end the very best picture. Sarah, who do you think produced the very best picture? Those who just
taking a lot of pictures.
Yes.
Because they're training their eye.
Yes, exactly. So what I say to the students is post. It doesn't have to be perfect. It's the learn. Remove your judgment. This is not about judgment. This is about you being a kid exploring what you're doing and how you're doing it, etc., etc. So that's the important thing. Now, you know what's interesting? Isn't it amazing how a curl on movement can hide a multitude of sins? Clearly, this is not working, but it's interesting how that's kind of integrated it just a little bit in readiness for the next part of this. So I'm going to be going over this a little bit more with you in a second, guys. I just want to get you thinking right now. So your daily habits. Will you give yourself 2 hours every week to join me and work with me side by side the way that Sarah has through our virtual training? Will you give yourself, instead of that hour on Netflix, would you give yourself an hour of watching a video and showing up? What would that do throughout the year by giving yourself out of the 52 weeks in the year? I don't even know how many hours that is in a year. I haven't done the calculation, but would you give that small percentage? And that would be really huge. So what we're going to look at now is how to save time and discover your energy stealers while cutting hair and mapping out the haircut. So we're now ready to go into the interior of our haircut. So what have we been speaking about today? We've been speaking about how you make your decisions with face shape, how you do your facial framing, how you map out the haircut, how you design as you cut. And now we're going inside the style, looking at how we're going to change the head shape. So we have focal points. And what we're going to do is connect through our focal points into our layers. And that's going to be a very important part of this. So when you look at these focal points, I'm going to show you now in real time how I measure my work. So when I'm looking at this and I'm blending it all forwards, this is where we're going to be going in order to create the shape. But before I establish my length, I must make sure it works well vertical and horizontally throughout my hairstyle. So that's going to be in the very important part of this. So as I'm going through here, my motivator, what is my motivator as I'm going through here? My motivator is I want this to flow. I want this to be very, very well balanced. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to now blend. I'm just going to work on the front, and I'm going to now look at how I'm going to map this out. So I'm just going to lower her a little tiny bit, and I'm going to use my string to show you an important thing here. Throw my comb on the floor. The 2-second sanitation rule. Right. So I have a length here already established. So if I look at that length from there, just probably an easier way to show you, but against the white, does it show, or should I take a darker color?
I can see it. You can still see it against your, red?
Yes.
Maybe, yeah, try that.
Yeah, actually, maybe I'll do red and white, right?
Oh, there
maybe
you
I'll
go.
Get creative here. Maybe I'll get creative, Sarah.
Okay.
All right. So here we have our length here. So when we lift that up, that's
perfect.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So there we are. And there we are there. So that length there, as I'm looking at this, I've now got to look at where that lives here. But bear in mind, that was cut from this part. So now as that blends in here, how are my layers going to be falling through here? And if I layer into this here, what is my connection? So I have that length there. I'm just going to put a T-pin So now as I lift this up, I have to now look at my outline shape and I go, whoa, what's going to happen there? It's either a very extreme concave or it is disconnected. So I'm going to disconnect the perimeter part of this, but I'm going to layer above it. So I know I'm going to layer, and then I'm going to leave out my disconnection and then very loosely kind of blend that through. So when I'm going into my back, I must, before I cut this front, I'm only going to show you the front right now. When I'm coming into this area here, I've now got to look at how is this going to come through? How does that fall? So it falls there. So if it's falling there, I'm going to look at what happens if I elevate this. And it actually does look really, really nice, elevated versus that heaviness. Do you see that? So I'm going to look at that and go, okay, well, I like where that lives there. So if I'm looking at this here, that actually will work because this length in here, when this is falling down there, let me grab a piece. I'm liking where it lives there. So that means that would be the length. So now when I lift this up and I look at my length here, I'm going, okay, that's going to work. So let me just turn you sideways. That's going to work. So I look at how it is falling. That's what I'm doing to make sure that I'm balanced. So okay, confession. When I used to layer, I would just pick the hair up and start cutting. That's the honest truth. And I would just see how it falls. I'd be like, ooh, I went a bit short. But I don't do that now. So I'm changing now to my scissors. And I'm going to come through here and I'm going to dry cut this. And I'm, based on what I just said, I'm only going to work to the crown and show you the front. Then I'll show you the back afterwards. I'm going to come through here. I just want to break it into segments so that it gives you enough time to process what I'm doing. Make some notes if you wish. I'm going to come through here and I'm just going to now break into this and lift this up to here. And this is where I now need to look and see how this hair falls. So this completely connects. So now this is the important part. And this is what's nice about when you dry cut. You look at how that falls through there. And that elevation is really quite nice. But before I go even more crazy, I'm going to look now at how will that be when I connect this into here. And yeah, that will all come off through there. And I'll be able to connect into my bag. So I know I like this length here. So turn sideways so you can see. It's called the dancing mannequin, right?
She needs wheels.
Yeah, she does. So that's where I'm going. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, let me show you from this way. Length. There. And that's where we're going to be going. So that when that falls down, we've got some really nice movement in there. So now the next thing is, as I come through here, how is this going to play out? Because I've now cut one section through the center. Now what I'm going to do is make sure that this is all good before I go crazy. So this was my centerpiece. Sorry, guys, I'm bouncing all over the place here with this girl. There's my centerpiece, level with her nose. So let's just check it one more time before I go crazy. There I am there. I have all of that softness. We just turn it slightly sideways so you can see. There I have my shape, over directing it forwards. So now coming through into here, I've connected it. This is a new piece of hair. I've connected it through there. So now what I'm going to do is I'm now going to connect into my side. So I'm going to come through here. I'm going to now elevate this up. And bear in mind, this has already been cut because of the facial framing. I'm elevating it. And there's hardly anything to do because it's been cut already from the facial framing. So I have made my life so easy by framing around the face. I'm going to come through up, 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 up. I look at what I'm leaving out. And now I'm just going to break into that. So there's the beginning of my concave. Does that make sense, Sarah?
It does.
All right. I'm now going to come through here and I'm going to elevate this. Elevation, fingers pointing up. I look at what I'm leaving out. I'm leaving this out now. I'm leaving that out for right now. Elevation, break all into there. Bear in mind, this has already been cut once, so I'm just tidying it up. I now look at that, look at how it falls. So that now I'm going to do the big acid test. I'm going to look at what happens, the consequence of just kissing this little edge here. And I may not do anything because this is part of my disconnection. That does not connect. And the disconnection is going to be more in the back. So I'm just going to very, 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 very gently tickle that edge there. And the rest of that is not connected through. So I now stop. I play with the hair. I go back into making sure that that's working well and looking at that movement. And it looks pretty good. I'm going to take one more section. I'm now behind the ear, behind the ear. So the danger area in a haircut is always the ear section. Because unless she's a real troll, she's got no hair at the ear, right? So here's my concave. I'm going to come up, slithering in, because this is a very soft effect. It comes down to there, and I now just look at my perimeter one time, which is the disconnection part. I elevate this. This does not connect. And this is definitely the danger zone. And I'm just going to tickle it tiny, 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 tiny. And again, that's where that light touch is so very, very important. Very, very important. So when we look at your biggest motivator for what you do, taking pride in your work, I think, is so important, because you're only as good as the last haircut that you did. There are 3 laws to the world of being compensated, three principles. One is skill. The more skilled you are, the more you can charge for your work. And those are soft skills as well as technical skills. Because what that client's really paying you for is your sense of style, your sense of knowing objectively what's going to work, and the why. Why is it going to work? That's what she's paying you for. And when everyone's worried about pricing, it's the quality of what you're doing that's so very important. Sarah, you put up your prices. You were very brave. You did it during COVID and now post-COVID and now a recession. Talk to everybody about your mindset of how you managed to navigate through that.
Well, I raised my prices, and only like 1 or 2 people said anything about it, asking about it. And now I'm in the process. You were talking about reinventing yourself. I am definitely reinventing myself behind the chair with the amount of hours I'm working. I'm reducing my hours. I'm not going to be working evenings anymore. And while I am reducing like my availability, I feel like I'm giving people more than I've ever given them. And I will be raising my prices again in October. And I'm going to be working less and making more and spending time the way I want to spend my time rather than being a slave behind my chair. The way I've worked, long days for my entire career. And I'm now changing it to focusing on balance and health and wellness and, behind the chair and in life. So raising my prices gives me that freedom to do that.
Excellent. Excellent. And the thing is that the 3 laws of compensation, guys, is skill, demand for what you do, cost to replace you. And if you are doing something that's you are hard to replace, That's everything. And maybe the hard to replace is that you just have that great sense of style of knowing what works on a client versus what doesn't. You may do exactly the same haircut as anybody else. You may have exactly the same skill set. You may have exactly the same price, but you just know when to say yes and when to say, that's not going to work.
Mm-hmm.
That's really what you're being paid for. Anyone can remove hair.
Mm-hmm.
I could remove this hair in 5 minutes. I'm designing right now. I'm not just doing a cookie cutter haircut. And I'm also trying to show you as best as I can a concave with hair extensions and all of this stuff and cutting it wet and dry. So I've got a few little obstacles here that I'm going through. So let's just summarize. We have worked on our perimeter. We have mapped out the length and the why behind that. We have now blended in a concave around the face. So now let's just take a moment's break before I go into the next part of this haircut, which is the final part, which is the layers. So we've got 15 minutes left. So hold on, guys, don't go away. So what we're going to do now is talk about how you can get more training, more training. So the hair designer program is definitely a program to help you get confidence. And this is how it works. We do virtual live workshops every week. You watch the video before class so that you're fully understanding the technique that we're going to be working on. And then from there, we show up for our live, and during the live, I get to watch you. I get to give you the feedback on what's working and what's not working. We then photograph our work. We photojournal so that we can make sure that what we're doing is working on our guests. Then you can see some amazing posts here. Then we are from the posts, you get the feedback. We have the mentoring as well. And so it's a wonderful 1, 2, 3. You watch the video, you show up for class, you photograph your work, and then you end up getting that feedback, and it's step and repeat. You do that over and over again. There are 5 terms within the program, and it's so amazing. This is from our Taylor. Thank you so much. You're an amazing teacher. I'm very grateful for everything you taught me already. And she is just starting on the floor, and she just got some little treats from me. So the program, we have a coaching session. So for those of you who are not part of our program, we have a coaching opportunity where you can contact us after this webinar and you can apply for a coaching session. We can talk to you about where you are in your training, ask you questions, and if you're the right fit, we can then make recommendations. What I do know is important is that we have to always look at, are we wasting time? We're taking too long on a haircut. We're cutting it twice. We're doing too much detailing. Or are we investing time by stopping, checking, looking at the balance, looking at the proportion, etc., etc. So you've always got to look at, are you investing or are you wasting time? And, you know, I've been in this business a long time, and clearly the amount of time that I put into this industry has not been in vain, because I've learned a lot. I still am learning, and what I'm trying to do is share everything that I have with everyone who I get to meet. One of the things that I know is that it's so important to learn the rules before you break the rules, and that's a very big important part of this, learning the rules before you break the rules. And what we like to do is we like to map out the haircuts before, and in mapping out the haircuts, we look at the position and the placement of what we're doing, and we make sure that everything blends and so on. So just as today, I've been going over the principle of mapping out the hairstyle and looking at the balance and the proportion as we go through. That's what we do every single time. So why listen to me? Well, I've been in the business for quite some time, over 40 years. We now have over 1,000 videos on my website, Hair Designer TV. I'm the former creative director of Vidal Sassoon and Trevor Sorbie. So I had a wonderful foundational training in this industry, which was pretty amazing experience. So from that, I've been able to share with people many things. I've been fortunate to win quite a few awards, which has been fun. And I've done international editorial work for print and for runway. And I've worked with some major brands throughout my career. Whatever I share and whatever the venue is, I want to bring it back and share it with my friends. And there's always a learn in these really wonderful situation. So it's very exciting. I've been able to work around the world, empowering hairdressers, showing them how to climb that ladder to success. So I'm not just teaching you a trick or a haircut. I'm really teaching you how to climb that ladder of success. We have a huge library here on our Vivienne Mackinder and Hair Designer TV. It's one of the same. And our library is really expansive. And I've been very blessed to work with incredible hairdressers. And these two fabulous people, Ruth and Stephen, are my former students. So ask yourself if what you're doing today is getting you closer to where you want to be tomorrow. So that's the big, big thing. So the designer program, who is this for? It's for someone who loves learning. It's for someone who would buy a gym membership and show up. Not someone who thinks about it and then goes back to sitting on the couch. This is show up and be fully engaged. And that's an important part of this. As I mentioned before, my methodology is get it right first time. You've got to get it right first time, and then you are winning. Then you are successful. And that to me is a very big, important part of this. In term 1, we focus on face shape. And what we have discovered is that so many stylists that say they have a hard time reading face shape and find it challenging to educate their clients. So first of all, you've got to learn it before you can communicate it through to your clients. And that's a very big part of this. So learning the face shape, how you communicate it through, and the design around face shapes is very important, because face shape is a science, an absolute science. And when you learn the science, it's easy to see and read what is going on with your client. And that's really, really huge. How to get fully booked. We've been speaking about that, because the consultation is king, and that's what gets you fully booked. We talk about where our clients live in terms of fashion. And I'm going to, in the interest of time, just show you, I don't want to confuse you here, but I just want to show you what I am doing. Let me just see if I can flip this around. Yeah, there we go. I'm going to show you what I'm doing with my haircut and talk to you. I'm going to do two things at the same time about the consultation. So, for example, let's just do a recap. I have layered around I have designed around the perimeter of the face, thinking about face shape. I have shown you how I concaved and I left out little pieces. Now I'm going to be working through the back of my haircut and connecting into here, so that you can see that as I'm coming through here, I'm still breaking into my layers, and I'm going to connect all the way through, not cutting into my outline shape yet, because I want to retain all of that length, but I want everything to be very, very fluid. I'm going to be staying behind the shoulders. Behind the shoulders is important, so I keep the squareness. And I'm going to elevate her up so that you can see the perimeter, because she's off camera. And this is where I want to talk about what is going on there with the 3 wheels of fashion. So this is the disconnected area. So instead of leaving it just one length, now what I'm going to do is take this area here in a very abstract way. I'm just going to,
there you go,
sliver through. So it's not a perfect connection at all. It's very, very random. And when you look at that there, you can see how that's starting to flow through. So it's very, very random. So the first part was layered up in our traditional way. Here, the disconnected part, I'm just very, very, very crudely going into there to give that those layers. And it helps with it being dry. I can see the fluidity of how that is cascading through. So when I now connect from my crown into my back, I'll just turn it so you can see. There we go.
That's good.
Yeah. I'm going to be here. Let's see if I can do it so I can stand in the right place. This may be a little awkward. No, I can't do it that way. I'm trying to show you and cut at the same time. I'm coming through here and I'm taking off that piece. Oh, I'll just show you. Yeah, it's hard with the long layers. Yeah, she's all over the map. So connecting that through. So we have here the three wheels of fashion. This is what we talk about in term one. How quiet or loud is the hairstyle? Well, this is not a whisper of a haircut. This is quite dramatic because, you know, she's got extremely long layers. She's got a fringe and she has a certain amount of edge to her look. How edgy is it? She's going to be kind of more high fashion because, you know, of the drama of the short fringe going into this longer back. And the femininity of this look, how feminine is it going to be? Well, it's going to be very, very feminine, I think, because she's going to have all this gorgeous length. And obviously, if a client's paid for this length, the last thing you want to be doing is taking off too much of it. So you want to be celebrating all of this gorgeous length, but you don't want her to look like a troll, right? That's the important thing. So in my consultation, I look at how quiet or loud is this hairstyle going to be? Where is she going to live in fashion? How sensual is that look going to be? And that's so important. So the consultation, we've been talking about it very lightly today, but the consultation are the three wheels of fashion, and it is the face shape. And to me, that's the game changer. It is the best consultation I've ever seen. It's not clinical, it's creative, it's emotional, there's feeling behind it, and it works. It absolutely works. So that's a big part of what we do. So the consultation is what's in term one. So in term one, we look at how to put the right hairstyle on the right face, how to make the client look more youthful, if that's required. Design with intention. Like, what are we exactly doing? What is the intention around what we're doing? We want to increase retention and referrals. So that is a big part of what we're doing. The other thing that we want to do is blow dry. So in term one, we're focusing on the blow drying. And Sarah, having been through term one, what was that for you? What made that the game changer?
Oh, I loved it. Definitely the opening and closing of the face, small little tips and tricks when you're changing the skull shape for someone who has a pear-shaped face or a pear-shaped skull, which is me, you know, and I was like, oh my gosh, now I realize like why I was always trying to get volume, you know, right here through my recession. And so really easy ways, very small ways to make a big difference for people. Really what that was it. And just being more intentional with my blow drying and with my like Denman brush, like using some different tools, you know, so adding just some tools to the toolbox.
Yes, yes. And then the photo journaling, what was that for you?
Oh my gosh. So I used to spend so much time like I would take a picture and I'd be like, that doesn't look right. And then, you know, so I feel like the more practice I got taking pictures, the better I got at doing it. And the more I was like, when you are styling the hair, once you're really good at photo journaling, it actually takes less time to get it right, if that makes sense. I don't know if that makes sense or not, but the more you train your eye in the photo journaling, the more you train your eye behind your chair. I guess it's intermixed.
Yes, and it's a hard thing to convince people of until they do it, because especially if it's sort of a generational thing of, oh, you know, I don't want to do that kind of thing. It's really, 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 really huge. I'm going to put the blow dryer on, and hopefully you can still hear me over that. Let's just do a test and see. So yes, can you hear me okay?
Yes. Yes.
Okay. So this is Sarah's work here, and this was her photo journaling. Sarah, would you like to talk about what you did here? Because it's a great study of face shape.
Sure. So this is my client, and she was my model for the class, and we were going over opening and closing of the face. And so I did the curtain bang. I did, you know, we did it so it was just blown out and soft and kind of whimsical. And then I added some curl to add some volume and opened it up around her face. So it was really fun and changed her part. So we just kind of, you know, when I just changed it up as we went through the photo journaling, and it was really fun and very, telling. I would say very telling.
Yes, and just a whole lot of fun. A whole
Yeah, it
lot of
really
fun.
was. We had a good time, and she's also a stylist, so I would say we both got a lot out of it that day. Yeah, really, really good.
And the big learns that you took away from that were huge.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So you can see here, as I'm blow drying and just finishing this through, I've got my nice little soft ends going on. And we'll continue talking about the program for those of you really interested in this was good, but we want more. In term two of the designer program, we go over the fundamentals. And the fundamentals are so very, very, very important because, again, as I mentioned before, you've got to learn the rules before you break the rules. And we want to be able to teach you such a strong technique that you do one technique, well, not necessarily one technique, but one haircut on your client versus doing multiple in order to get the result. How would you say, Sarah, for you, your time in fiddling and fussing at the end of the haircut has changed?
Oh, definitely. So I definitely I love using the razor, just like you did around the hairline there, like you're cutting and debulking at the same time. So before I would cut a very precise haircut, and then I would spend about 15 minutes like deconstructing it with my razor or my texturizing shears. And now I feel like I do it all at the same time and with just very, very little detail at the end. So I'm probably saving about 15 minutes per client on my
That is
haircut.
incredible.
Yeah,
That is huge.
it
And
was because I was letting time
beautiful.
dictate how creative I was in the past.
So you've got more time to be creative, right?
Exactly. Exactly.
Yes, which is really, really fantastic. And, we're talking about motivating staff. When you can say to your staff, listen, do you want to be able to get there quicker? Do you want to have less stress? Do you want to have a happier client? Do you want to get out of being bored by doing the same thing and the same thing? Anyone who cares about the craft is going to say yes to all of those, right? And say
Yeah.
yes, yes, yes. So that's going to be a huge, huge part of that. So very, very, very important part of that. So I just rough dried this because the noise of the blow dryer. I'm just going to go in now and just do some finishing touches with the iron. Forgive me, I'm running over, which is that not normal? Too much time talking, not enough time cutting. I'm just going to come through here, and if I was blow drying it, I would be doing this kind of movement through here. But I'm just going to do this and then again style it as we're going through, because remember I said I wanted to be able to create a little bit of a flip in here. So I would rather do this all with a blow dryer, but in the interest of time, the iron is coming out. So would you like to be able to do all of these hairstyles and have the confidence to do them all? They're actually all based on a very similar technique. And yet, there's a client out there that will love and appreciate this. Scarcity creates value. If you can do all of these hairstyles and your competitors can't, that is huge. What would you say to that, Sarah?
Oh, yeah. Definitely. You're just going to be more sought after.
And how nice to be able to have that variety within your work so that you really are pushing your creativity, and that makes that again super, super, super exciting. So that to me is again very, very important as we're going through here. The next thing I wanted to talk to you about is that in my training I put novices through the program. Sarah's actually seen this, where we've got some youngsters in the program who are being transformed, as well as people with tremendous amount of experience. So that's exciting too. And again, it's learning's a mindset. If you come and work with me, you'll see that you'll have fun. And you'll see that it's not about judgment. It's about making baby changes that create that transformation. Baby changes. So how do you create those baby changes and create that transformation? That's the big thing. So, whether you're understanding, okay, so maybe my style is bohemian and I'd like to be more glamorous. Or maybe my work is very glamorous and I'd like to shake it up and do a little bit more boho. Whatever that is for you to push yourself and say, I want to be more creative. And Sarah spoke about this to me before in a session where she said, well, I'll let you say it, Sarah, about when you were so busy that you were kind of like lost in the thick of it all.
Yeah, I was, I think different parts of our career demand different parts of ourselves. And at the time I was a single mom and very much into being the producer and the breadwinner. And I really let the clock and time dictate how creative I was, And so while I was still doing good work, it wasn't, I wasn't challenging myself as much and I wasn't having as much fun. I felt a little bit more like an order taker, and while I still had pride in my work, I just wasn't having a good time.
Yeah. And I think that's the very big, powerful thing there, isn't it? Mm-hmm. So now as I'm finishing up this hairstyle and I'm going through just very, very quickly my finishing effect, let's just do a recap on the layers and understanding how they fall. What is so important is understanding when it's in space and how it drops down and how it falls. That's really, really huge. Again, how it is in space and how it falls down. So when we're looking at our mapping, Sarah, you said the importance of what you've learned in this mapping. Would you like to add to anything that I'm just saying here about this mapping and seeing how the hair falls before you pick up your tools?
Well, I love the mapping because it does save time. It really does. Like you create the map, you follow the map, and then you take the time to really look at how it's laying rather than cutting the hair, blow drying the hair, then looking at how it's laying. You know what I mean? Or especially around the face and everything. So, and where the weight is distributed throughout the haircut. So as you do it, again, it's like saving you time and it gives you confidence in the process.
Absolutely. So that's a big part of this. In term 3, we explore our bobs. Our bobs are a very important part of this because our bobs teach us the precision. Sarah, what did it mean to you going through the bob series?
Well, I love a good bob. It's always been one of my favorite haircuts. And doing it with the razor was a game changer. Total game changer. Smooth, seamless, beautiful. Just weight distribution, the way that, checking the angle with your hands versus like checking with your, little pieces. So there's again, just you have such a beautiful end result and a new way of doing it.
And did your clients notice the difference?
Absolutely.
That's wonderful. That's wonderful. So what we have is term 1, blow drying, finishing skills, consultation, face shape, designing to fashion. Term 2, we have the fundamentals in razor cutting, your fundamentals in precision cutting. And then in term 3, we do our bobs. In term 4, we do our graduation. And graduation is so important. And this statistic is pretty amazing. Does this surprise you, Sarah?
No, I just had this conversation with a friend of mine that they have a phenomenal salon, but they're focusing on more long hair extensions, blonding, and a lot of the young stylists are turning away people who want short hair because they're afraid to do it.
Wow. Yeah. So does he not see that as a loss of business?
Absolutely.
And what's she prepared to do about it?
Well, I don't know. We didn't go there. She doesn't own the salon. She was just telling me like what was happening. And they do beautiful work on the work that they do. Yeah. But they're basically pigeonholing themselves as stylists.
Yes. So the beauty of short hair, I mean, obviously today we're doing long hair for you, and I love every length on the right person. It is about having the right length on the right person. And I would not do this hairstyle, this extreme on anyone other than the right person, the right face shape, the right age that can pull it off. Some people can pull off things in a really cool way and other people can't. So, this has a cool factor to it. So graduation is such a beautiful thing. And I have to tell you, when I cut off my hair from having it shoulder length for so many years, I felt so liberated. It was just the most amazing, amazing, amazing thing. So, I think it is about the mindset of being super open to play and to experiment. In term 5, we work on our layers, and our layers are such an important part of what we do. And we work all the way through from short to long layers. And what's so exciting about this is, again, the creativity of playing around with all of our different lengths. And that makes it super, super exciting. So term 5 is where Sarah is right now. So Sarah, how is term 5 going for you?
It's good. I have some haircuts to make up for just due to some personal things, but I really, I can't believe we're almost done. I don't know what I'm going to do on Mondays.
I know. How it's a commitment. It's a bit of a lifestyle change, but as you know, what you put in is what you're going to get back out.
Absolutely.
What would you say to people that will be considering in investing the time and the money to do this?
Oh, I would say it's definitely worth it. It's the best training I've ever had. It's the most consistent. It's the most consistent, best training.
Oh, Bob,
and with the practice, it solidifies the knowledge. It solidifies the lesson.
Yeah.
So it's basically, you're watching, you're doing, you're photo journaling. You have the mannequins to look back on, and I don't know. It's just it's the most comprehensive training I've ever done.
Oh, wow. Well, thank you. Well, it's taken a lot to figure it out. And as I said, it's a system that takes you there. So we've just looked at the styling. And I would just say that as we complete this tutorial today, what I would say to you is that if you are looking to be mentored, whether you're a salon owner, whether you are an independent and you're looking for how you can make changes to your world and to your work, the question is, am I the right person for you in terms of guiding you and directing you? So if you're bored with the same old and looking for more fashion and variety in your work, I can help you. If you want to develop your brand, absolutely, I can help you. Overcoming the fear of cutting hair short, absolutely, I can do that as well. And then also, you don't want to be average. Average is not fabulous, and there's never any money in average. And the next thing is, you want to be worthy of a 6-figure income. So if that is you, I can absolutely help you. We do have, which is really fun, we just started it, it's called Open House. So if you would like a tour in more detail, and you would like to actually see somebody as fabulous as Sarah in action, you can actually book Open House. You can go to the link, and we can take you through, and you can see this in real life form, which is really a whole lot of fun. So that's very, very exciting. Open House, so you can do that. There's an application form as well on my website, and the application form will be going over what your goals are, what you want from your career. You don't have to struggle. You can get that guidance, and you can get that encouragement and that support that you need. And I think that's a very important part of that. So if you'd like to join us, that's how you do that. On a call, please show up, because we book out time to talk to you. So please have the courtesy to show up if you book a call. You'd be amazed how many people just get busy and they forget. And that's not really fair. That's like having a guest not show up for her appointment in the salon. So on the call, we will discover, what your needs and wants are. We will explore all of that with you and just see if you are the right person for this particular program. And that's what makes that very, very exciting. And if at the end, if we are the right fit for you, we will sign you up. But if we don't feel that we're the right fit because maybe you just can't invest the time, etc., we will recommend something else to you. So we don't take everybody into the designer program because I only want to work with people who are committed, who are passionate about being successful. And I think that's a very, very important part of this. So I think that kind of says it all. So again, you can book your call. We can't take everybody. So those of you who are interested, you know what to do. You go to the link and you can book your call. So I hope that helps and makes sense to you. So I have gone through this haircut, and let's just do a little recap here. We worked on the perimeter first. We then worked on the perimeter of the back, which I have to raise her up so you can see. There
she looks
is.
Beautiful.
Yeah, so there we have our back. We had this disconnected, and I just visually, and even with the razor now, I can come in and very lightly just put a few more layers into there and just see how that hair is performing. Our layers are concaved. We've got all of this nice movement. So we have to make sure that the hair doesn't look too one length from the hair extension, which is why you can just tickle the ends with the... Ooh.
That looked like it hurt.
She's crying.
But now she's happy. Her hair looks great.
Yeah. So you just want to come through and to what we were saying earlier, that those few seconds to stop and check and take a look. And do you need to just break up the surface? And the razor gives you something that scissors will never, ever give you. It is the way that it is. The roundness, I think, works very, very well in there. And we've got a little nod to sort of like the 70s.
I love the fresh take on long hair is very popular now, but I feel like this like modernizes that chop, and the one length hair.
Yes, yes. And just as I say, a whisper through here. And now she's crying for some color. So we've got that little flip coming across, which I think is important. And I wanted to do it so that she's got that little kiss of hair into her eyes. Trying to be practical. Sometimes you see with these curtain fringes that they're not very practical, and you do want this to be practical. And you'll see how much this did jump up. I mean, this is almost level with the top of her the nose, and that's how much she jumped up, which I knew she would. So Sarah, anything you'd like to share as we say goodbye to our friends today?
No, but somebody wrote, I am an independent stylist and I'm looking to stay motivated. I find it lonely sometimes. So I feel like you just kind of answered all of that,
Yes. And we all need somebody. We all need that emotional support, that encouragement. So I think that's very, very, very important that you have a system. So my training is not just about the mechanics of going through a haircut. My training is about being mentored, being guided every step of the way. So if that's for you, then I say a huge thank you to you. So thank you so much, Sarah, for being with me today. Did you learn something, Sarah?
I did. I always learn something. Thank you for having me. I really enjoyed it.
Well, thank you. And I think she even likes it. So guys, there we have our look. We've got it layered through, and I think that the layers do work really, really quite nicely through here, that we have it so that it is disconnected, but in a very crude way, blending through. So I hope you've enjoyed this, and I just want to say a huge thank you. Look forward to seeing you either in an open house or a coaching call. You've got two options there. And if you think you've got friends who would enjoy this, please send them our way, and I'd love to see you part of the designer program. Sarah, thank you so much.
Thank you, Vivienne.
So lovely to be with you and sharing your knowledge with everybody, and you're an inspiration to our industry. If we have more Sarahs out there, we'd be rocking the house.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, guys. Take care and bye for now.